Greetings, and welcome to the High Flying Tutors Academy channel. Today I'm going to do this question. It's a matriculant or grade 12 question. So in this question, we are required to prepare the notes to the financial statement of financial position, which is ordinary share capital and retained earnings. All right, and the statement of financial position. So I'm only going to do the notes. One. Number two, I will prepare the statement of financial position in the next video, so that you can better understand certain things that need to be understood better. And always this financial position, most of the time it becomes a problem to many of you. I think I balanced this balance sheet when I was still in grade 10, so I'm going to try to give you my knowledge and the approach in a better scale. All right, so and better understanding. So but today I'm only going to do the notes, ordinary share capital and retained earnings, on how to get that 7 marks. Okay, so now number one, I want us to just break the ice on 1.1, where they say complete each of the following statements by choosing a word or words from the list below. Write only the word or words next to the question below. Next to the question numbers in the answer book. So in accounting, you're given an answer book, so lucky you. And then 1.1.1, they say the are employed by the company to set up and monitor control processes. Employed by the company to set up and monitor control processes. These are internal auditors. Your answer for 1.1, internal auditors. And then 1.1.2, they're saying are appointed to give an unbiased opinion on the financial statements. That is external auditors. External auditors is your answer for 1.1.2. And then 1.1.3, they say are appointed by the owners of the company to perform key managerial function or management functions. These are directors. These are directors. Directors are appointed to do managerial functions in the company. So those are your answers. That is just an icebreaker, because I'm not interested much in the theoretical part, but I'm interested in where you have to deal with calculations and have a better understanding. All right, so I want us to go and prepare ordinary share capital note. Right, so here is our answer sheet. Right here, I'm gonna put headings. Here you're gonna, this column, you will be calculating the number of shares. The number of shares. All right, and then here it will be details that you're gonna put. Details, I'm just gonna say details, and then amounts, decide in rent. Okay, here you're gonna put amounts in rent value. All right, and then I want us to go and start by identifying the number of shares at the beginning. The number of shares at the beginning. Here I'm gonna put the details, and then but now, before we do anything, I want us to go and determine the financial period before. Financial period. Let's go and determine the financial period first. So the financial period, 28 February 2022. So your year ended 28 February 2022. So let's see. So your financial period, that means you ended 28 February 2022. All right. And then it means when did you start? Because that's how we determine the financial period in accounting. Do not start a question without outlining this financial period. It will be guiding you because it's the one that guides you how to identify the opening balances, the closing balances, how to determine a lot of things. So now I want us to go and do that now. So if your year ended 28 February 2022, that means you started on the 1st of March. 1st of March 2021. You see? So that is how you identify your financial period. So you ended it in 2022, you started in 2021 because the year is in the middle. It's during the year. February is not the beginning month, it's the second month of the year, of the current year. So that means you started the previous year on the third month of the previous month, year, right? So now, since we have identified our financial period now, I want us to come this side where we are going to have opening balances. Opening balances will be from the month of March 2021, right? So when we come here, we're just gonna say opening balance or opening balances because it will be for the amounts in rent and the number of shares this side. Okay, so I'm gonna say opening balance. Some of you can say balance on the 1st of March 2021, but I will advise that you say opening balance. Opening balance or balance at the beginning. All right, and then how much is your opening balance for the shares? Right, 1. We are going to identify that in the question now. Let's go to our question right now. Let's go to our question. All right, let's go to our question quickly. Here they gave us balance sheet and nominal sheet account where they identify amounts, but I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in B, where they speak about directly the share capital and dividends. All right, so look, they say on the 1st of March 2021, 75% of the authorized share capital of 1,200,000 ordinary shares were issued. So in the share capital, in the ordinary share capital, we need to record the shares that are issued. We need to record the shares that are issued. All right, the authorized shares, remember, is the stock of shares that is available to be issued. To issue is to sell the shares, right? So the authorized shares is just a stock of shares, like an inventory of shares that is going to be issued in the future, right? When we say we issue from the authorized shares that are available for issue. So now they're saying on the 1st, which is the beginning of the year or opening balance of the shares, that say 75% of the authorized share capital of 1,200,000 ordinary shares were issued. So it means for us to calculate opening balance number of shares, we need to come here. We need to come here and say 1,200,000. You can just do this calculation as well in brackets. 1,200,000. All right, you multiply by 75 divided by 100. Okay, let me just do this. Right, and then how much is your number of shares issued at the beginning? Number of shares issued at the beginning. That's what we need here. Number of shares issued at the beginning. All right, so let's put that on the calculator and see how much are we getting. Number of shares issued at the beginning, this is going to be 1,200,000. You multiply by 75 divided by 100. I'm getting 900,000 shares issued. 900,000 shares issued. All right, 900,000 shares issued. And then now, how much is the rent value for those shares? How much is the rent value for those shares? How much is the rent value for those shares, and how do we determine that? All right, we are going to still have to calculate the rent value for the shares issued. All right, so for us to calculate the rent value for the shares issued, all right, we need to check something. All right, we need to check. So if you check up there, we have ordinary share capital of 7,954,000. all right, and that is the shares issued. All right, that is the shares issued. That is the shares issued. That is the amount of shares issued at the end, is the balance. Already they gave us, if you check on the answer sheet, okay, they gave us here on the answer sheet. So for us to calculate it, to get the price, I want us to go and fill up all the number of shares that were issued, that were repurchased during the year. So now I want us to go to additional information number 2 on the 30th of August. All right, on the 30th of August, they say 80,000 shares were repurchased from a retired shareholder. He was paid 20% of 20%, which is 136,000 above the average share price, and would no longer qualify for dividends. All right, so these shares, they are no longer qualifying for dividends. It means we need to minus the repurchase. The repurchase we minus. The repurchase we minus. So we're going to say shares repurchase. Additional information number 2, we've got shares repurchase. All right, shares repurchase. Shares repurchase. Okay, and then now shares repurchase is 80,000 number of shares. 80,000. All right, 80,000 number of shares that we need to subtract, and anything that we subtract in accounting we put in brackets. Remember, this side we're still dealing with the number of shares, right? We're still dealing with the number of shares. And then from there, I want us to go to the next one, to the next additional information. This is how you must approach the test or the exam, and you don't even have to have any issue on that. Let's see. So on the 31st of August 2021, an interim dividend of 28 cents per share was paid, right? An interim dividend of 28 cents per share was paid. So we are dealing with the number of shares now. So let's leave the dividends for now. Let's go to the next additional information number, the one that happened on the 1st of December 2021, which is additional information number 4. It says an additional 150,000 shares were issued, right? So there's an additional issue of shares. So to record this one, you're just gonna go to the answer sheet and say additional shares issued. Additional shares issued. Okay, additional shares issued 150,000 150,000. 150. This one you add, right? You add, okay? And then right, so that is the last issue of shares for the year. The last issue share, right? And then after that they paid or they declared the final dividend. Okay, so I want us to calculate the total number of shares issued for the year at the end of the year. All right, number of shares issued at the end of the year is going to be number of shares issued at the beginning. You subtract shares repurchase, you add additional shares issued, right? How much are you getting right there? How much is your answer? Remember, I say you are dealing with the number of shares first, right? So let's do so. So 900,000 opening balance of shares issued minus 80,000 of repurchase plus 150,000 additional issue. All right, so I'm getting 970,000. 970,000. That is the total number of shares that were issued for that year of 2021-2022. All right, so now we are done with the number of shares. Okay, we are done with the number of shares, and then now I want us to calculate the rent values, right? So remember, this is the rent value, this is the number of shares, this is the number of shares, this is the rent value. So now for us to calculate the rent values for this, we need to calculate price per share. Are you with me right there? We need to calculate price per share. Price per share. So price per share is going to be equal to, we are going to use these values here. Are you with me? So to calculate price per share, all right, let me just create space here. So for us to calculate price per share, it's equal to total shares issued is equal to total, you're gonna say total, you're gonna say total rent value divided by total divided by total number of shares issued, right? So in this case, our total rent value is given is 7,954,000. all right, 7,954,000, and then you divide by the number of shares. The number of shares is the one that we calculated of 970. All right, so you divide by 970,000. How much is the price per share right there? How much is the price per share right there? How much is the price per share right there? Let's see. So you're going to say 7,954,000. You divide by 970,123, which is 7,954,000 divided by 970,000 number of shares. Remember, 7,954,000 is the rent value, right? And then how much is the rent value there? I'm getting let's see, I'm getting ₦8, ₦8 and 2. R8 to R8.20. All right, 8.2, which is I'm getting 8.2, and then I'm just gonna double check that amount. So let's go to the question again. Let's go to the question again. Let's go to the question again. So there was additional issue. All right, so I want us to verify something quickly. Okay, so let's go to our additional information up there. They did not give us at the beginning, so I'm getting 8.20 rand per share. Okay, so now from there I just want to double check again. 7,954,000 you divide by 970,000. I'm getting 8 rand, so it's going to be 8 rand and 20 cents, right? 8 rand 20 cents. So 8 rand 20 cents is the price per share. Are you with me? Is the price per share. Okay, so another thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna double check this amount if it's correct. Okay, I'm gonna check with you right now. So let's go to the additional information. On the additional information, they say to you 80,000 shares were repurchased from a retired shareholder. He was paid 20%, which is 136,000, of which is not 100%. This amount is 20%, but we need, how much is the 100% rent value of this 80,000 number of shares? All right, so how much? So we wanted the total rent value for it. So let's go and check that. To check that, I'm going to say they gave us, in brackets there, they gave us 136,000, which is 20%. Okay, multiply by, I want 100%, not 20%, but I want 100% out of 20 because I have got 20% of 136,000. I don't know if you get my point there. And then let's see how much are we getting. That will be the correct rent value for those shares that were repurchased. Okay, so because 136 is 20% of 80% of shares repurchased. So let's see, because we are in the ordinary share capital note, we record the total amount, the total rent value, not the 20% that was paid to the shareholder that retired. We record the original value, or the original rent value. So the original rent value is 100%. So that's how you get it. Okay, so let's see how much there. Let's see how much. 136,000 multiplied by 100 divided by 20. I'm getting 680,000 rent value for this one. 680,000. This one I'm 100% sure it's correct. Then I'm going to use that one as well to calculate price per share. So price per share, I'm just trying to check if 8.20 is correct, or there's a different amount, so that we decide which one we are using. All right, so for us to calculate price per share on this case, we have to say 680,000 we divide by 80,000 number of shares. All right, how much is there? Let's see. We're just verifying if that 820 is correct. Okay, that's the way. If you are in the exam, you want to make sure that your answers are correct, you must have a way of verifying. Right, so let's see. So 680,000 rand divided by 80,000. So here I am getting 8.50. All right, I'm getting 8.50. I'm getting 8.50. So when things are like this, I will suggest that we use the 8.50 from this one, right? From this, I will suggest we use 8.50 from this. So let's leave this one, but this is the way of getting it. But now you need to verify, because if you verify, you find that this amount are like this, just take the higher value. And again, remember that this one, it has been there for a longer period, because if I look at the question, I don't see any better way to calculate the price per share, unless if it's given somewhere. That is 8.50 or maybe 8.20. When I check the additional information, when I check everywhere, I don't see a better way of calculating it. But I would suggest that we take, in this case, I'll suggest that we take the one, the higher value. All right, I'll suggest that you take the higher value, which is 8.50. All right, so we can calculate our opening balance rent value. Our opening balance rent value now is, because we agree that we are using 8.50. Those who use 8.20, no problem, because it's an error that I think is justifiable. All right, so we are going to say 8.50 multiplied by 900,000 number of shares. Okay, then you get the rent value. So let's see how much we're getting right there, times 8.50, of which, even when we check in certain questions and memos, like there's a lot of mistakes, but that is what I'm saying is a mistake that is justifiable. All right, so we get 650,000, right? And then remember, our 680,000 is a repurchase. We have to subtract it. Okay, we have to subtract it, and then let's go to our additional issue. Additional issue as well, we need to calculate for it. And to calculate for that additional issue, let's see, we have to say open brackets 150,000 multiplied by 8.50. Let's see how much are we getting right there, and we must verify and check if we are still going to get 7,954,000. If not, no problem, but this is the way of doing things, because here in accounting, to understand better, get the right things, like get the right format, the right principle, because sometimes that's why they give you a principal mark sometimes, or most of the time, when they realize there's some errors they might have made in question, they give you a principal mark because you are able to apply the correct principle. So now, don't worry, we're doing the right thing here. All right, so 150,000 multiplied by 8.50, I am getting 1,275,000. And then let's see, right? So but now I'm getting, and then let's see, I want to check something on the question right there. All right, I want to check something. Okay, Okay, I'm getting that. But now let's see. I'm gonna say for us to calculate, because they didn't tell us how much they issued the shares with. I'm assuming it can be 850, 850, 850, 850 everywhere. But I think we can just do this because we've got the total. We can discard that calculation and take the total. All right, and take the total. And then I want us to take the total. You add the repurchase, you subtract the opening. So let's do so and see how much we are getting. Because when I say 185, when I say 150,000 times 850, I'm getting a very huge amount, of which I don't think is the correct answer. But because they did not tell us how much they issued the 150,000 number of shares with, how much, they didn't tell us how much is the price per share. We're just gonna say, let me see, to calculate rent value for shares issued. For shares issued is going to be equal to 7,954,000. You add 680,000. You subtract 7,650,000, which is opening. Let's see how much you are getting there. Let's see how much you are getting there. 7,954,000. You add 680,000. You less opening 7,650,000. 7,650,000. And then I am getting 984,000. 984,000. Now, to verify that, you can just start the formula from the beginning. You say 7,650 minus 680,000 plus 984,000. You will get this amount. All right. So, but here, the main thing that you need to understand is to get the right answer. Because remember, if we're going to say the price is 850 or 850, it can be wrong because they didn't even tell us how much is this price per share. So we can get it like this. So now, the price per share for additional issue is going to be the price per share. If you have to calculate price per share is going to be equal to 984,000. Then you divide by 150,000. Let's see how much is the price per share right there. Let's see how much is the price per share right there, because I want us to go and look at why we got 820 and then I said let's use 850 as well. All right, because it seems like the additional issue of shares of 150 were not issued at 850. So let's do so. How much there? Divide by 150,000. So you see now the price per share for additional issue. The price per share for additional issue is 6.56 cents. You see now. So you see that is why we are getting this one. And I said let's use 8.50. Let's use 8.50. Why? Because the opening shares that we had at the beginning there were not issued the same as additional issue price. So that is why we have less. So this one now justified that it is not correct. The correct one is 8 Rand 50, and 8 Rand 50 we got it by starting to get the repurchase rent value. We divided it by the number of shares repurchased, and then we get 8 Rand 50. But when we check on the additional issue, this was not issued at the price of 8 Rand 50, was issued at the price of 6 Rand 56. All right. So now I want us to have that better understanding, because you know sometimes these questions, I don't know, but they said them in a tricky way, but we need to just focus and make sure that our answers are correct, because in the test, remember, or in the exam, you need to verify a lot of things. You need to really verify a lot of things. All right, so this is how you calculate your ordinary share capital. All right, so this is how you calculate your ordinary share capital. This is how they arrived at this amount. Okay, so now we are done with this one. I want us to go and calculate your retained earnings. Your retained earnings, right? Your retained earnings there. Your retained earnings right there. Your retained earnings. Your retained earnings. Your retained earnings, right? So your retained earnings, so I want us to go and calculate or do your retained earnings right there. Let's go and do your retained earnings. So let's see on the question how do we do this one. And if you've got any questions on the ordinary share capital, let's discuss, let's talk. Just put something on the chat there, or maybe on the comments. I'll be able to attend to you and try to engage with you so that you try to understand better. All right, so I want us to go and deal with the retained earnings. So the retained earnings as well, if you check that, they gave you the closing amount. They gave you the closing amount of 1,196,000, 1,196,000. All right, so I want us to go and check. In our answer sheet. They already gave us here. They also gave us final dividends. What we need to do is to calculate the interim dividends. The interim dividends. We need to calculate the interim. We need to calculate the interim. We need to calculate the interim. We need to calculate the interim dividends. So interim dividends, we are going to take the number of shares that were available when they issue them. I mean, when they paid the interim dividends. We're going to check the number of shares that were there. So the number of shares that were there, let's see when. Let's check on the question, when did they pay the interim dividends? The interim dividends was paid on the 31st of August, 2021. That was before the additional issue. So when we paid dividends on the 31st of August, 2021, we are not going to consider 150 number of shares, because remember, dividends is paid based on the number of shares issued, right? So when we pay, again, we need to consider this 80, because they said we made a repurchase of shares of 80,000 from a retired shareholder, and he is not going to be considered for dividends. He's no longer qualified for dividends, so we need to minus it. So now let's go there. All right, so let's go there. So now for us to calculate the total number of shares for interim dividends, I want us to do so now. All right, we're going to calculate, let me put it down there, number of shares for interim dividends. Interim dividends. All right, so it means we have to say opening number of shares 900,000, you subtract the 80,000 of repurchase only, because the interim dividends was paid before the additional issue of shares has taken place, right? So now how much then? So it's going to be 900,000 minus 80,000. So we are going to calculate interim dividends based on the number of shares that are there, which is 820,000. All right, so we are going to say number of shares. Remember, to calculate the dividends, you say total number of shares issued multiplied by the price per share per dividends. So 820,000 you multiply by, they said interim dividends of 28 cents per share was paid. So 28 cents is going to be 0.28. all right, 0.28 right there. And then how much is the dividends paid? I started with that one so that you understand this. Okay, so now let's see, it's going to be 820,000 multiplied by 28 cents. So I am getting an interim dividends of 229,600. Okay, that is your interim dividends. All right, so total dividends, total ordinary dividends is going to be final dividends, interim dividends plus final dividends. All right, so let me just do this. So how much now is going to be your ordinary share dividends? Your ordinary share dividends is going to be 229,600 plus 213,400. all right, which is going to be 443,000. all right, that is the answer for ordinary share dividends. All right, and then now when it comes to repurchase, on the retained earnings, we are going to consider the one that we paid, to the retired shareholder, the amount that was paid to the retired shareholder. We are going to consider that one, all right, of 136,000. We're going to consider that one of 136,000, but we're going to put that in brackets, okay, because it's a minus, money out, 136,000. all right, remember, I want you to see something here, right? That if you check on the if you check on the share capital, we used the original rent value. But when we are calculating the retained income, we are using the amount that we exactly paid to the retired shareholder. So that's the another difference that you must check right there, okay? And then now, we are going to check as well how much is the opening. We need to calculate opening, all right? We also need to calculate what is missing here. What is missing here is net profit after tax, or net profit for the year. Net profit after tax, or net profit for the year, right? So we need to calculate net profit for the year. We need to calculate net profit for the year. Remember, I started anyhow. I started by calculating interim dividends, because you can start anyhow. As long as you are given an answer sheet, you can start anywhere, right? So I started by interim dividends. Now I went to shares repurchased. So you see, and then now when it comes to the net profit, let's go and see how are we going to get net profit after tax. Net profit after tax, okay? So if you check transaction C, they say income tax for the year after taking into account all adjustment amount to 438,000. All right. So now it means now we have to calculate what? Net profit after tax. All right, because I'm gonna show you in a manner that you can understand better on this one. All right. So for you to understand this better, I'm gonna do this calculation. Remember that when you prepare the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, known as income statement, you have to say, at the end, I'm just going to touch three things at the end. You're going to have net profit, net profit. You're going to have net profit before tax. Then you will have taxation or tax, right? And then after that, you will have net profit after tax. At the end there, net profit after tax. All right. So now they are saying to you, in percentage, taxation is 30%. Your income tax is 30%, right? That means your profit after tax, is 70%. All right. And then your profit before, your net profit before is 100%. I don't know if you guys are following here. And then after that, remember here I'm outlining percentage, not rent value, right? And then now, after that, how much is the rent value that you have? The rent value that you have here is the rent value for the tax, right? Let's go there. They say income tax for the year. Income tax for the year, which is 30% of the net profit, amounts to 438,000. All right. So, meaning 30% of the net profit is they refer to the net profit before tax. All right. And then, which means for you to calculate, because you've got how much there? Let's just check that amount again. We have 438,000, all right? Rent value. 438,000. 438,000. So your 438,000 is 30%. In the retained earnings note, you need 30%. I mean, you need 70%, right? So for you to calculate this 70%, you are just going to say in brackets, open brackets, 438,000, you multiply by 70 out of 30, because you need that 70 out of this 30 that you have here. All right, so let's see how much you are getting. Let's see how much you're gonna get. 438,000 multiply by 70 divided by 30. You will get 1,022,000. 1,022,000. All right, that is your net profit after tax. So this one, it will be the rent value for here, which is 1,022,123. All right, and then for you to calculate this one, remember, if you want to calculate net profit before, you can just say 1,022,000. You add 438,000, and then I am getting rent value for 100% here is 1,460. Just to justify this answer, or just to confirm it, 1,460,000. So you can say multiply by 30 over 100. You will get 438,000. Just to, all right. So you can just try to clarify your answer, but it is correct. And then now we are done with what was needed there. So what we need to do now is to calculate the opening balance. The opening balance, or the balance on the 1st of March 2021. So for you to calculate balance on the 1st of March 2021, which is the opening balance, you just have to say, listen, you just have to say closing balance of 196,000, and then you less total ordinary share dividends of 433,000, and then you add the one you subtracted, 136,000. You also subtract 1,022,000 for net profit after tax. I'm getting let's see, I'm getting let's see, because already we've got the total of 119,600. Oh, sorry, we have to subtract ordinary dividends, right? This one we subtract, it must be in brackets, right? It must be in brackets there. So when we calculate, we have to say 1,196,000. You add ordinary dividends. We're just reversing the calculation. 443,000. You also add 136,000, and then you less the profit, 1,022,000. 22 1 2 3, and then you will get an opening of 753,000. That is the correct opening. All right, that is the correct opening. I forgot to subtract a ordinary dividend. So when you want to get it right, going down is gonna be 453,000, which is the normal way. You add the profit, you subtract the repurchase, you subtract the dividends, total dividends right there, and then you're gonna get the balance at the end. That's how you do it. Okay, so you can just try to master this. This is very easy, and if you need clarity, just put something on my comment. I will clarify everything. All right, and I hope you're gonna enjoy this session. I was trying to be slow and try to explain it better, and if there's some lack of explanations, just put on the comment and I'll try to improve in the next session. But I believe you'll understand this one better, and salute.